up, everybody? This is Angel Ghost Girl here, and today's video is going to be a paranormal read aloud. And right now we're reading magazine 2. This is episode 2 of magazine 2. And right now we're reading Paranormal Ghosts, Aliens, and the Unexplained. That's what we're reading right here. Years before, Raymond Captain had fallen in love with a young man named Damon, who did not reciprocate the captain's feelings. In a jealous rage, the captain hit Damon, who responded by murdering the captain a few nights later. Fearing Roman retribution, the local townspeople sentenced Damon to death. Damon, enraged by the sentence, responded by murdering the magistrate. When news of Damon's latest murders spread throughout Cheronia, the townspeople set upon the young man in a local bathhouse and killed him. Thereafter, according to Plutarch, there appeared spirits in the place, and there were heard groaning and sighings. In the 2nd century, a Greek writer named Polygon of Tralles, who was living in Rome and served on Roman Empire Hadrian's staff, compiled the Book of Marvels, which contains the several bizarre, and paranormal events. The Book of Marvels has an entire section dedicated to ghosts, including several instances of dead people returning to life. The best known of these stories is that of Philion, a magistrate maiden who conducts an affair with magistrates, a young man staying in her parents' house. Logan also related the tale of Bolagos, a Syrian cavalry commander killed in battle with the Romans. When following the battle, Roman soldiers looted their enemies' corpses. Bolagos returned to life and ordered them not to disturb the dead. Polygon even included an appendix at the end of the Book of Marvels, listing people who had allegedly died and returned to life. Pliny the Younger, a 1st century Roman author and magistrate, wrote a letter to Senator Lucius Caesar in which the recounted several ghost stories, including that of Theodorus, who rented a house in Athens that was allegedly haunted. On Theodorus' first night in the house, a ghost appeared to him and led him outside to the garden. The following day, Theodorus had the garden dug up and found a skeleton, which he ordered properly buried, after which the ghost never appeared again. Hungry ghosts. Ancients' belief in ghosts was not limited to Western cultures. Some of the oldest known stories in China involve the spirits of dead people returning to haunt the living. As with the Egyptians and Greeks, many ancient Asian cultures believe that the failing to properly bury a corpse risks the deceased spirit returning to haunt the living. Buddhism, which emerged in India between the 5th and 4th century BCE and spread through Eastern Asia, reinforced the belief in ghosts in China. In the ancient Sinicar language, a prit usually translate as hungry ghost is the spirit of a dead person who has not been reincarnated, usually due to exclusive materialism in life, having hunger for unclean or just objects such as feces or blood, and exit in the same physical space as the living through can be to the living. More than often, they are Many Asian societies have an annual Hungry Ghost Festival, usually involving the sacrifice of objects to satisfy the hunger. Ghosts on the other side of the globe. Belief in ghosts was also common in cultures. The Aztecs, who inhabited modern day Mexico, believed that upon death, human souls went to one of three places: Mictlan, an underground realm ruled by the god Mictlantecuhtli, whose worship involved human sacrifice; Tolkien, a paradise of undying springtime for the souls of those who died by drowning or being struck by lightning; and the sun, particularly feared were the spirits of women who had died in childbirth. The Aztecs believed these periodically reappeared to kidnap children. The diverse native cultures of North America also believed in ghosts. For instance, the Native Americans living in the southern part of the continent seem to have believed that souls of both humans and animals could return from the dead to seek vengeance on the living for failing to follow proper burial rituals. The Navajo of southern North America believed that the spirits of dead appeared as coyotes or mice or as dark shadows, while the nearby Apaches believed that ghosts appeared to be living in dreams or as shadowy black objects. The Cree, who inhabit the Great Lakes region, believe that failure to follow proper burial rituals might result in the deceased ghost called Tapasuyok haunting the community. Ghosts of the Bible. Ghosts figure prominently in the Judeo-Christian religion tradition as well. There are several mentions of necromancy, the practice of communicating with the dead, in the Old Testament. For instance, Deuteronomy lists among several abominable practices prohibited by God. This did not stop King Saul from having the witch of Endor conjuring the prophet Samuel's ghost, who accurately forecast that Hebrews would lose an upcoming battle with the Philippines. The book of Daniel contains the story of Belshazzar, son of the Neo-Babylon king, whose empire included ancient Israel. According to Daniel, Belshazzar gave a grand feast during which he used the Israelites' sacred vessels to serve his guests wine. In response, a spectral hand appeared that wrote a message rebuking Belshazzar for profaning the Israelites' sacred vessels and telling him the days of his kingdom were numbered. The Jewish belief in ghosts continued to some extent into the New Testament. For instance, after walking on water, Jesus' apostles believe him to be a ghost, which he denies. When Jesus appears to them following his crucifixion, the apostles again believe him to be a ghost, which he again denies. As Christianity spreads across the Roman Empire, it's observed and adapted many of the existing traditions related to ghosts. A good example of this is the Celtic tradition of shaman. The Celts, who occupied modern-day Ireland, England, France, and Belgium, and migrates as far as Turkey, celebrated their new year in the fall, around what is now November. Celtic tradition had that the Day before the celebration, the ba- boundary between realms of the living and the dead blurred, allowing ghosts to return to Earth. In addition to causing mischief, the ghost made it possible for druids, as the Celtic religion leaders were known, to make prophecies about the following year's harvest. To assist the druids in the prophesying and hopefully ensuring a good harvest, the Celts lit huge bonfires that they used to burn sacrifice to their gods. During these celebrations, the Celts sometimes wore costumes and placed food outside their homes. For the wandering ghosts, over the next couple centuries, popes adapted the tradition, and November 1 became All Saints' Day. Because Hallow was another word for saint, October 31st became All Hallows Eve. That eventually became Halloween, which is to this day incorporates many of the Celtic traditions. Medieval haunts. Thus, medieval Europe had a long and rich tradition of beliefs in ghosts, derived from pagan, Jewish, and early Christian stories. Naturally, there were some skeptics. For instance, one of the Catholic Church's most important theologians, St. Augustine of Hippo, who was later declared a doctor of the Church, firmly rejected the belief that spirits of the dead could haunt the living. This was a minority belief. However, belief that ghosts exist and haunted the living was much more common in Catholic Europe. For instance, Constantinus of Lyon published a biography of Bishop Germanus of Auxerre that included a ghost story. According to the Constitutions, while traveling, Germanus and several accompanions stayed in a house that had the locals believed to be haunted. That evening, a ghost appeared to the group and claimed that it haunted the living because its corpse had not been properly buried. The ghost then led Germanus and his companions to the spot where its bones lay. The following morning, the travelers exhumed and reburied the ghost's bones, this time following proper religious rites, and the ghost was never seen again. Several ghost stories appeared. Pope Georgery is written at the end of the 6th century. These include the stories of a priest tormented by evil spirits and a tale about two sharp-tongued nuns whose ghosts haunted their former church. According to Georgery, ghost encounters were not always bad. In one instance, the ghost of a recently deceased priest prevented a thief from escaping the churchyard with a stolen sheep. It was only the prayers of the congregation who discovered the would-be thief standing like a statue in the churchyard that convinced the priest's ghost to release the man. Europeans were far from unique in the beliefs about ghosts during the medieval period. One of the best-known works of literature from that time was and is Islamic text titled 1001 Nights, which contains several ghost stories. 1001 Nights, often called Arabian Nights in English, is a complication of Middle Eastern folk tales collected during the Islamic Golden Age, and it draws Abrahamic, Greek and Indian, Jewish, Persian, and Turkish sources. One tells the story of a jinni, an Islamic spirit capable of possessing humans, who haunted a particular house in Baghdad murdering any who dared to sleep there. A traveling merchant named Ali decided to sleep in the house, and instead of killing him, the genie rewarded him with a shower of gold. Other stories recount the tale of a city populated entirely by corpses, and another concerning a fisherman who tricks a genie out of killing him. Though little known in Europe until the 18th century, 1001 Nights demonstrates the popularity of ghost stories across the globe. And if you like videos like this, then like and subscribe. And until next time, everybody, sweet dreams or sweet nightmares.